Hey guys, as you can probably tell from the title alone, this is not a Let's Play. The reason I'm doing a review instead of a Let's Play for this particular game is mainly because it's a fighter game. And I'm sure you guys don't want to be watching me play over and over the same basic levels that most fighter games do, without a story. So instead, I'm going to do a review. And I'm just going to go over the basics of the goods and the bads of this game, because I don't want this game to just be a dust in my shelf, basically. I was away for a week visiting my parents, and I found this game for extremely cheap. At first I wasn't very sure how I was going to feel about it. It looked decent enough for a fighter game. However, considering it's a very old PlayStation game, let alone Digimon game, most fighter games that are based off of anime, or, well, considering this is also a video game based anime, basically like Pokemon, you're not really sure if this game is going to be good or not. So, if you'll bear with me, let's begin the review. As you can see from the opening screen, you have quite a bit of Digimon that you can choose from at the beginning. From Gabumon, Agumon, Patamon, Terriermon, Gillamon, Renamon, Wormmon, Vmon, and Gatomon, which I still find kind of funny that they changed her name from Tailmon to Gatomon, considering that the characters are Japanese and not Spanish-speaking in the slightest. But oh well, I don't mind. Anyway, as you can see from the moving creature in the background, there's also Kalumon, or Kulumon, if you're more into the Japanese version, who basically is your little guide and is like, just choose a Digimon! And he's basically just there for looks. And as you can see, all the Digimon that are in the selection are from Digimon 1 through 3. And you can see that there's a lot of empty spots. And you're probably wondering, how do I get these characters? The easiest way to say, from the top row, all you need is codes. And you can find those easily on the internet just by looking it up if you have the game. The only difference with unlocking them through the passwords or codes or whatever you want to call them is that they don't automatically appear after you put in the code, even though it says, this character has been unlocked. What you have to do is, from what I have experienced, because I didn't actually see this written down when I looked it up, is that you have to play through the game, and it will randomly, like, stop a battle right before you guys actually hit each other and do any damage, to say, another enemy has succumbed, and that's basically it. So all you have to do is defeat the enemy, and then you have him. Another character that you can unlock is actually Intmon, also from Digimon Tamer, which is also known as Digimon 3, or 03, depending on what you're talking about. Anyway, to unlock Intmon, from what I've gathered, is that you have to play as Gabumon, Terriermon, and Renamon all the way through the game, and have them shown in the top 10s, basically. Or at least that's what I'm assuming, because when I played through the game, I did play as Gabumon, Terriermon, and Renamon, and while I was able to get Terriermon and Renamon into the top rows, I was not able to get Gabumon because Reapermon is a terrible boss. I'm not really sure myself. You can correct me on this as much as you want, I don't really mind. But, from my experience of fighting Reapermon, he's completely random. And I'm not saying that his attacks are random, because they're always the same attacks. But I found his aggression of fighting style to be a mixed match, really. When I was playing with Renamon and Terriermon, I actually was able to beat Reapermon without much problem. But when it came to Gabumon, I found it to be much harder, like he was purposely trying to kill me. While with Terriermon, it was kind of like, I'm going to play around with you and just stop in the middle of battle, which was completely weird, and I don't really understand it myself. But according to what I read, you have to play as those three, and I'm only assuming that they have to be in the top 10s. Not that they have to, because again, it didn't say that. It just said play through as those characters. And I did, however, it did not unlock Itmon for my file. But then again, I played Gabumon first and had him on a really low bar, and so when I got Renamon and Terriermon to a higher selection, he dropped out of view. So, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have to replay as Gabumon and get him to a higher level, but I'm finding it very difficult due to the fact that Renamon keeps repeating me. Now that the characters are out of the way, let's move on to the actual gameplay, other than what I was talking about Reapermon. Now, in the game, as you can basically see from every opening of the screen, the characters show the attacks of the buttons that you have to press, and no matter what character you play as, that's the default button to smash, if you're a button smasher like me. No matter what Digimon you're playing as, you're still pressing the same buttons, but what I find neat about this is that the attacks are different. And while this could just be me considering I've only played Gabumon, Renamon, and Terriermon, I found that the controls of each Digimon are slightly different, mainly because of the attacks, I suppose. For example, Terriermon's attacks are actually very quick and close range for the most part, except for, his Money Blast. But because of that, it feels like Terriermon's attacks make him much more faster and easier to control. That is, until he digivolves and his attacks are sluggish, and the mechanics kind of slow down for that. Renamon, on the other hand, while she looks like she should be fast, is actually pretty slow and combat heavy until she's actually hitting you physically right in your distance, instead of charging up for one of her attacks, which are extremely slow. You should be cautious of when you're going to use those attacks due to the fact that when you're charging, the other Digimon can come ramming at you and hit you before you are even able to attack it, which is the only downfall of Renamon. Her evolved form isn't very much better, but that's just me, and I'm still able to get used to controlling her through the game, considering that I was able to get her really high up in the score, so she's not a complete lost cause because of that. Now, Gabumon, on the other hand, he actually does feel relatively normal speed, and his attacks are pretty good, and I kind of love the fire-ice punch in the air, because it makes you think of another attack. I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm sure you will kind of get the gist of it by just looking at it. However, I found that his evolved form was extremely sluggish, just like most evolved forms it seems, and that's probably one of the downfalls when I had to fight Reapermon, because I could barely even get an attack in. So all in all, I believe that the game actually keeps a little bit of variety while still being a very basic fighter game, which isn't a bad thing for anyone who just wants a good fighting game with friends, opposed to a more advanced fighting game like, say, Mortal Kombat, or maybe even Tekken. I'm not very sure, I kinda suck at Tekken anyway, so whatever, dude. Now that I've kind of already praised the game a bit, let's talk about the bad points. I've noticed while I was playing through the game that there are certain times when it looks like I should be able to hit the enemy, I go right through it, and we seem to be just dancing around each other wondering when are we gonna get a hit. So that's probably the only disadvantage of the game I found, other than just being, basic and slight weird hit detection on when you're just very close, when you think you should be able to hit him, especially with a character that is used to hitting extreme close combat, and yet is missing repeatedly. The only other thing I could say about this game is, if you are a fan of Digimon, and a basic lover of fighting games, and not the most advanced fighting games, and would complain about it being too linear, I would say this is a good game for you. Not to say it's a must-buy, but if you're a fan and you'd like to get at least a used copy, which are extremely cheap, they go for $8, which is how much I was able to find for mine. Which is funny because in the store that I bought it from, they say that they usually go for $20, and I was able to find mine for $8, and if you look it up online, the lowest used price is actually $3, and the highest for new is $73. So, I guess I got pretty lucky in not having to pay $20 for a used game in stores, opposed to one online for even cheaper. Now, for any of the hardcore gamers of this franchise, you probably are wondering, do they have the original cast voices? Now, I can't honestly say that they do, due to the fact that I am not a fan of the English version of the show. I actually enjoyed it when I was a kid, however, when I've tried to rewatch it again, the puns and nonsensical jokes kind of raped my mind to the point that I just could not sit through it at all. Which is why I much prefer the Japanese version overall, due to the fact that the characters aren't pointlessly throwing jokes at you 24/7, and there's actual character development, which makes it much more of a developed series. And due to the fact that I haven't watched the show in English for a long time, I can't really say if they're the same voice actors or not. However, I do feel like they probably did throw in someone completely different for Takato's voice. That could just be me from hearing the Japanese version to the English version, which I don't have a copy of, so I can't show you what it sounds like. But to each his own. I'm not going to rate the game on its merits of keeping to the original series, even though it is basically based off of the series, considering it says so on the cover. It has Digimon Adventure through Digimon Tamer. But again, it doesn't have the story plots. They just have the Digimon fighting each other because why not? The only other thing I could probably say about this game is that Pokemon could really use a game like this. And I'm not saying that they should repackage Pokemon Stadium. No. What I'm thinking is they should make a Pokemon fighting game. Basically what they did in Super Smash Bros. Except for instead of just Pikachu and Jigglypuff, throw in more selection and have them have different attacks and speeds and abilities that each Pokemon make it more challenging for the players, and not just the same old, same old.
You win.
So even though this game may be a diamond in the rough, with a lot of rough edges to it, it's still a very good game, and if you are into those type of games and a huge Digimon fan, I would suggest buying it, but otherwise, I would say pass on it. And I hope you enjoyed this review, even though it's extremely simple and short. But I enjoyed this game, and I hope you do too, if you decide to play it and or already own it. And again, if you know how to get Hitmon, for sure, please tell me that Digimon is awesome! And this was called Kitsune. See you guys later. Until the next Let's Play. What? Hitmon? Oh my god, it's Hitmon! Hitmon! Yay, I locked it somehow. Oh, it must have been Gillimon. Shit. They said Gabumon. They've written the thing wrong. Jesus Christ. Yay! Hitmon! Now I can play it like a normal person. Oh, Hitmon. That's too awesome. That made my day.